Hello and welcome to FreeFlight. This is live flight logging chapter, what we're up to now, 4. Today we're going to be focusing on two areas, the returning temporary member and the visiting and vintage pilots. We're going to leave trial lessons to a whole chapter of it on its own. A quick definition, returning temporary member. The problem is that returning temporary members can fall into a couple of categories. If they are genuinely temporary members that have been approved by the club, then they will have been put on to the membership database and they will have a membership number. Here, returning temporary members really refers to trial lessonists who have had a flight, and as part of the deal you have offered them 30, 60 or 90 days temporary membership. 95% of them will never take it up, you'll never see them again, so there's absolutely no point in putting their data into the database. It will simply make it very large and clunky over the years. If I tell you that in the 10 years that Derbyshire and Lancashire Gliding Club have been using FreeFlight, we would have racked up nearly 8,000 trial lessonists in the database or marked as temporary members if we'd have chosen to use that route. We don't. We tell them about the membership, we then forget about it until the day they turn up and say, I've got a 90-day membership, I'd like to fly again please. That's absolutely fine. At this point we would reuse this returning temporary member facility. We used to call it returning trial lessons. However, that caused a bit of confusion at the launch point, simply because if a person was coming back as part of a 3, 4 or 5 flight package which they hadn't been able to complete on the day, then they really were coming back as a trial lesson to complete the trial lesson rather than a returning temporary member. So some members were being confused by that at the launch point and using the wrong option. So returning temporary members are trial lessonists who have completed their trial flight and they are now taking up the offer to come back with their free membership for 30, 60 or 90 days. What we need to do is to be able to find them. Now the trial lessons are all held in a totally separate table within the database. So this returning temporary member will actually interrogate the correct table. So we click on it. And you'll see here some instructions. If the person you are looking for is not in the following list, then they are not within their allocated 90-day temporary membership period. Click OK to continue. So we're going to look for a particular person called Seb. And the only reason I know this is because I had a quick look before we started the tutorial. So click on continue. So Alison Seb, she had an air total to 2,500 feet. And she came and flew on the 3rd of August 2020. So a quick calculation, we're on the 24th of September. Yes, she is within her 90 days. We click the button, we click continue, we fill in the P1, we fill in the aircraft, the name of the person is already filled in. We select whether we're going to give them a winch or an air tow. Let's say today we're going to give them a winch, and we click create. From that point on, you simply treat them like any other flight. You see the P1's in there, her name is in there, it's got a special membership code which we reserve for returning trial lessons, and that's 998. So all we do to start the flight is click the clock, and to end the flight we go to the active tab. Just getting ahead of myself here, we go to the active tab, and when the flight is complete we click the clock again. Now I'm not going to do that because we've only been running for about 30 seconds, so I'm very quickly going to show you another feature of FreeFlight. So if you happen to miss a time or miss an aircraft coming down, you can always go back in here and manually put the down time in. So we'll put 17:25 for that. Click on save. Again, she's disappeared from there and she's appeared in the landed tab with the fee calculated. Only one caveat, obviously, don't let them leave the field without collecting the money. But hey ho, that's up to your club, that's not up to the purpose of this video. Right, that's it for that section. Let's quickly move on to the next. Okay, so let's look at visiting pilots and also visiting aircraft if they bring one with them. Now, some caveats here. The first thing is never assume with this section. Just because you've never seen a person at the club before doesn't mean to say that they haven't been in the past, maybe even 2-3 years ago, and it doesn't mean to say that they haven't already got a record set up. So the first thing we're going to do is actually going to open up that section, and we're going to check for a visiting pilot account. Now, here I'm going to enter a surname, and let's see what comes up. Now immediately we see that this person has actually been before. They've got a temporary membership number, and it actually says that they're active. Now may or may not be a mistake, I really have got no idea. So the point is, we now are armed with the membership number, Temp 121, and from this point on we can treat him like any other member because he's in the database. So we could go to standard club flight, we can key in TMP 121 and it will appear that pilot. Okay, so let's cancel that for a minute and let's assume that it isn't actually that Crowson, it's a John Crowson, and he come from somewhere else. So you see, you have a button here that says not here, add new. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to add this new visiting pilot. Forget the membership number, the system will add that. In fact, I don't think it's a field you can fill in, you can't fill it in. So it's John. If only I could type. And the surname is Crowson. Okay, I'm giving you the minimum details here. There's no need to fill in the address information, that's just going to tie up your time. The one thing you do need is some means of contacting him if he walks away from the airfield today and doesn't pay. So at the very least, grab an email address and preferably grab a mobile phone number. Okay, the one thing I forgot to mention there is, if possible, try and grab the name of the club that he comes from. And that's all you need to do. Click on create. Now, again, he has been placed in the database. We click on standard club flight. We type in Crowson. And now we should get two popping up. The one that was already in there, and the new person that's come in. So we can now select him and proceed to enter a flight. I'm not going to do that now, just going to leave that. The other thing that might happen with a new visiting pilot is they may bring an aircraft with them. So let's add a new aircraft with the duplicate check. Again, if he's been before, or if she has been before, then it could well be that their aircraft is already in the system. So in this case, I'm going to check that this particular aircraft has been on site before. I'm going to click in KRV, which are the last three characters of the ident, and as you can see, we already have an aircraft in the system. So this aircraft and possibly this pilot, who might be a brother of the first one, has already been on site before. There's no need to do anything else. Had that not been the case, if this list had been empty or a slightly different ident, say KRVX, then you would simply click on the add an aircraft button here and fill in the information about the aircraft. So the ident you would fill in, the model of the aircraft, no need to worry about the last C of A. Obviously it's not a club aircraft, there's no fees involved, there's no pence per minute involved. If it's a visiting pilot's aircraft, there's really no need to fill anything in apart from the ident. Nothing else matters. and so at least that will put it in the system, and you would be able to fly the pilot with his own aircraft for the day. So just to recap, visiting pilots, check that they're not already on the system. If they're not on the system, enter them and then treat them as any other member. Similarly, adding an aircraft, check that there isn't already an aircraft in the system with the same ident. If there is, use it. If not, then just add the aircraft details and you'll be able to fly them in exactly the same way as a standard club member, picking the pilot and picking the aircraft as they go along. And that's it for this tutorial. The next up, we're going to be looking at the trial lessons and all the various options that are available in the trial lessons. And that's it. Hopefully see you soon. Happy flying.